Coming up on this episode of the Locked On Bucs podcast, I am joined, as I am every Wednesday, by Evan Closky of 10 Tampa Bay. We're going to put a nice, tidy little bow on the win over the New England Patriots. Evan is going to give me his thoughts on the injury situation and how he feels Richard Sherman performed in his debut, what Sherman is going to look like going forward. Then we're going to begin our preview of the week that the Buccaneers play the Dolphins. All of that coming up on the Locked On Bucs podcast.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome back to the Locked On Bucs podcast. I am James Yarcho, joined by Evan Closky. Check out everything I'm doing over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eClosky WTSP, and at Bucs_Nation. Of course, this podcast is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Make sure you check out our YouTube page. Please subscribe. We really appreciate it. And with that, Evan, you almost got the trifecta on your predictions from the Patriots game. Well, your predicted player of the game was Antonio Brown. With the caveat that if he didn't play, it was Mike Evans, who had a phenomenal game. The score prediction was 20-17 in favor of the Bucs. And then you predicted 3 sacks by the defense. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka almost had that by himself. So well done, sir. We polished up the crystal ball and things became far less foggy.
Squeaky. Just got to clean it off a little bit. I had that strong start and then I lost my focus there for a little bit. And now I'm back. And now, bettors all want to jump in on the Lock On Bucs podcast because I got you.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this game against the Patriots? Because it was not what a lot of people thought that it was. Tom Brady struggled quite a bit, couldn't really get his rhythm. He was overthrowing guys. He was off on a lot of passes. I think a lot of that can be chalked up to a great defensive game plan by the Patriots. Weather conditions were absolutely terrible. Buccaneers players are dropping like flies. So what were your takeaways from this game?
Yeah, so first off, don't overreact to the bad offensive game, we'll say it, or the subpar. It wasn't atrocious. But yeah, Brady did not look like Brady. Having said that, I do think Brady was very conservative with his pass attempts. And what I mean by that is, look, I think entering the week, it was a concerted game plan saying, we are going to stop the Patriots often. Their offense is not good, okay? So what we have to make sure is that we don't give them fortuitous field position. So what does that mean, right? No fumbles, no interceptions. So I think that Brady probably, in the element of trying to make sure that he did not make a mistake, I think overcompensated on some of his throws to make sure that only his guy could catch it. And if it wasn't him, it was going to just be an incomplete pass. And that's why I think the passer, I think it was about like a 50% completion rate when it was all said and done, which is much lower than we expect for Brady. So yeah, I think he knew that the Patriots were going to win this game if the Buccaneers made mistakes and helped them out. And that was the number one thing, that no matter what, even though the execution was not there offensively, even though Bruce Arians said in the post-game press conference and then the press conference the next day that watching the red zone offense was a bit disappointing. Having said all that, the number one thing that they did was they limited mistakes. They did not shoot themselves in the foot. They did that enough with penalties, which needs to be corrected. But as far as the controllable stuff, at least once the ball is hiked, they did not give the Patriots easy points. And to beat the Patriots, you need to force them to go the length of the field on you. And they were able to do that a couple of times, but that was pretty much it. And I think that is what I walked away from was, okay, they're playing this very safe And then also, obviously, the old adage that, good teams find a way to win ugly. And the Buccaneers are a good team. I don't know if they're great yet. I think at the end of the season, once everybody comes back, they're a Super Bowl winning caliber team. Right now is that rough spot by no fault of their own. But they found a way to win. And it doesn't matter how you do it. I don't give a crap. You need the dub. And getting a win in the NFL is still one of the hardest things to do in all sports. So they got it done. They're 3-1. They're in a great spot. And the best part about all of this is they still have not showed us their best effort.
Right.
We saw, I think the best they've played all season was against the Falcons, and we still got 10 to 15 minutes from them in that third quarter, bleeding a little bit into the fourth, where it just was not there. But if you put the first, the second, and the fourth together, for the most part, outside of that Brady fumble, whatever that happened there close to the red zone, I think that's probably the most complete team effort we've seen, and that even then we can nitpick as well. So the 3-1, and the Buccaneers have probably given us 70% of what they should be.
Yeah, last week I posed the question to you of, we joke about Brady and how he's from another planet and all this, and is the moment, is he going to be able to compartmentalize the emotions and how he's going to be feeling returning to Foxborough? Do you think that played into it a little bit? Because I certainly do. I mean, David even brought up the other day that he didn't do his typical pregame routine out on the field. So I think he almost kind of took himself out of his norm, which is why we saw kind of that slow start, some of the off throws, and the very un-Brady-like performance that we got out of him.
Yeah, and no matter what, the entire week, even mostly after the game too, he's kept everything pretty close to the vest. Mm-hmm. But there is no doubt we are all human beings. And I don't care if you're Tom Brady, or a janitor in Gillette Stadium. Like, we all have emotions, we all have feelings. And Tom Brady, going back to Gillette, going back into that environment, especially Sunday Night Football, and then factor into the rain. I mean, there were a lot of variables there to mess with him. And he did not look comfortable for whatever reason that is. I don't want to use him returning to Foxborough as the blanketed excuse for that. Having said that, I do believe Tom Brady, out of all people, the focus wasn't 100% there. And I don't blame him for that, okay? Because I think all of us, imagine, I don't know, if you grew up in your community and, stayed, let's say if you grew up in one place your entire life, went to college in that same place, and then, I don't know, went away for a year and never went home, and then came back, like, you're not going to just come back and be like, oh, this is normal. Like, you're going to have like these weird feelings, like, it's like, oh, I remember all this. And it just, it's psychological stuff, and nothing that I think it was everything that we thought that game would be. At least to me, I thought that was going to be a tough game. Bill Belichick is a tremendous defensive mind. They brought it. Brady and the offense brought it as well, doing what they had to do to limit that defense from taking over the game. And in Brady fashion, they were able to sneak out the dub. Whether the 56-yarder was the right call or not, Bruce Arians believes to think that, he has no problems with it because Folk was hitting 60-yarders in practice. That's neither here nor there. He certainly had enough leg. But, that's the way that the ball bounces sometimes. And for Tom Brady, the ball seems to bounce a little bit more his way than other people's ways.
Some would call it sweet, sweet karma for Nick Folk missing 3 field goals as a Buccaneer against the Patriots 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So justice has been served, I guess.
Sure. We'll go with that.
Take it how we can get it, right?
And I will say this. Something that I will say about the offense that maybe is a bit more concerning to me than I thought entering the matchup. Brady missed Gronk. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal because they have so many weapons, but it actually was more of a big deal than I thought. Brate was not it. And I get it. They don't have that connection yet. But in the beginning, he goes to Brate in the end zone. Brate was probably supposed to go to the pylon. whatever. There was a miscommunication there. I don't know on who. I just assume Brady's always right. But, then Brady dropped the pass. It would have been an easy first down in that game as well. And I just felt like Brady sometimes needed that safety valve, and that's where he goes to Gronk. And I don't know if Brady was that guy. So maybe it just takes more time practicing with him. But the absence of Gronk was actually bigger in my eyes after watching that game than I thought entering the game.
And probably not going to have Gronk this week against the Miami Dolphins, but we're going to dive more into the injury situation here coming up in just a minute. But of course, Locked On Bucs, we thank you for being your first listen every day, and we are free and on all platforms thanks to people like our friends at Get Upside. Our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN to get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Download the app for free and use promo code TOUCHDOWN. Some people who drive a lot, like me, hockey dad, that's the life. They're making as much as $200 to $300 a month in cash back. There's no catch. The cash back gets added to your account. You can cash out anytime with your bank account, PayPal. You can redeem it for gift cards from places like Amazon. Just download the free Get Upside app. Use promo code TOUCHDOWN. Segment 2 here on a WTSP Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. James Yarcho, Evan Closky, we thank you for being your first listen today. Evan, there are injury problems galore. Now, something that David and I
just a little bit.
We itty bitty.
A smooch.
So the Bucs are missing Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean. There's your top three corners. So they bring in Richard Sherman. We're going to get to him in a minute. We're missing Gronk. You just touched on that in the last segment, and it was glaringly obvious how much he was missed in the red zone. Missing Scotty Miller. They were missing Giovanni Bernard, so you had Keyshawn Vaughn as the third down back, but they may only need Foxborough Lenny from here on out.
Lenny looked good.
Lenny looked fantastic. So here's the thing that David and I talked about. All of these injuries are piling up. It's brutal. But the Buccaneers are about to prepare for a stretch where they may not see an opponent that's at 500 or better until December when they face the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
So you now have time to sort of get things right, get guys healthy, and you're not going up against the Rams and the Cardinals and the Packers and the Chiefs of the world. You're going up against the Dolphins and the Eagles and the Giants and the Colts. So where do you stand on the injury front as far as how it's plaguing this team, but basically how are they going to be able to overcome with the upcoming schedule here for basically the next 2 months?
So, how it's plaguing the team. Well, you saw what happened when they played the Rams. Let me again say, the Buccaneers are a very good team. Mm-hmm. When you're a very good team, you can still find ways to beat subpar teams or, teams that might be here, especially with Brady, because that offense, even though you mentioned some of those injuries and they're missing Gronk, it's whatever, right? Like Gio Bernard's out. Okay, we just give Lenny more of the ball. Scotty Miller's out. Yeah, we got enough wide receiver depth. Gronk's out. Okay, that's a bit of an issue, and I do admit that. But more often than not, you still have Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and hopefully O.J. Howard can get going here. I still don't think he's 100% right. If we're still seeing Brady out there a lot. Having said that, luckily the schedule is in their favor, as you said. It's tough to imagine they're going to run the table. There's going to be an ugly loss in there, just by the nature of the beast. I have a tough time believing they're going to just continually win. If they do, tremendous. They have to take advantage of this stretch, because if they were to enter, let's just say they enter the playoffs with this team as constructed, there would be huge issues. Luckily, right, all these injuries are happening at the beginning of the season. So that is the one benefit. Now, we don't know how badly Carlton Davis is injured. We know it's bad. So is it season ender? Is he going to be able to come back in 2 months? I mean, it's a rough quad injury. So I don't know what's going on there, because to me, like, that's your guy. Like, that's your but having said that, we saw, I think, finally a successful adjustment from Todd Bowles in being aggressive and finding success with that aggression, but also, as Bruce Arians said, creating pressure in the front four and being able to win in those scenarios. That stuff works against Mac Jones. It's probably going to work against Miami. It probably is going to work against Carson Wentz. It's probably a lot of these teams, it's probably going to work against a lot of them. But against the upper echelon guys, I don't know. So will it affect the team in the short term? I think they'll be fine, mostly because of how the schedule is laid out. Having said that, it's not great having Richard Sherman, D. Delaney, and Pierre Desir as your cornerbacks. Like, that, objectively, that's a problem, and we can say that, they can step up and whatnot. I will give a shout out to Ross Cockrell. I think that I think that he is just a guy, ever since the training camp, has carried over that training camp success into the season, and he's been a bit of a savior for this team, because he's been steady Eddie in a reserve role and now in a significant role, and it's interesting to see how little Mike Edwards is playing. He's gonna have to insert himself again into the lineup a bit more these days.
Well, with the concussion to Antoine Whitfield Jr., he has to step up. He's the guy now.
Yep.
He's got to come in there and he's got to help out Jordan Whitehead. And we've talked about it before, that he is a starting caliber safety in the NFL. He just happens to be behind two other starting safeties, one of which could potentially be, a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro here within the next 2 to 3 years in Winfield Jr. But with his injury now, Edwards has to step up, right?
Yeah. No, it's at least nice to know that you have Edwards coming in, and that can be a 1-for-1 exchange. For the most part, I think Bowles is certainly a bit more limited now. I think you just have to create pressure. Like, the game plan every week has to be, how am I going to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands as fast as possible? Okay? Because if that quarterback has enough time to sit in the pocket, the cornerbacks are going to get toasted. They are. They're just the simple facts. Yeah. Maybe not every play, but over the course of a game, there's going to be 3 to 4 chunk plays in there, which are going to put you in great field position, which are going to result in points most likely. So it's, hey, how am I going to get this ball out of the quarterback's hand as fast as possible? I need to make the offense methodically move down the field, because if I can do that, then I give my defense more of an opportunity to possibly create a turnover. With the more plays, more quantity of plays, more opportunities there is to create a turnover. And for that defense, I mean, it has to be like, we need 2 or 3 of these a game. Like that, like, we need to force turnovers, because they're going to give up points. So as long as you can get a couple of turnovers here or there and get that offense the ball, then more often than not, you're going to counter the ugly performances on one side of the field to help out the others. But, tip of the cap to them against New England, because they really they did enough. Mm-hmm. They did a pretty darn good job of making sure that, A, they forced turnovers, and B, limited the Patriots from getting into the end zone. And no matter how ugly it's been for this defense and the injuries, mostly because of the injuries, by the way, they have been solid in the red zone. So that's another thing.
Well, and real quick before we hit our next break, Richard Sherman probably shouldn't have been out there on Sunday night. He didn't appear to be ready, both from a schematic standpoint or a guy who hasn't played football in nine and a half months standpoint. But I thought he did have some moments where he started to look okay. He was vocal about his own performance, critical of himself, saying that he's going to get better, but he's excited to be back on the field. What did you take away from Sherman's performance, and what do you see moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's so tough to take anything away from it because, like, the guy was signed on a Wednesday, went out to practice again on that Wednesday. That was the first time he saw anything, met his players, met his teammates. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, fly to New England and play on Sunday. Even Sherman said, I need a week at least. Yeah. The coaching staff all week said the plan is for him not to play, okay? And all of a sudden they got okey doked, and he played all but one snap.
Yeah.
All but one snap. I tip my cap to Richard Sherman because it was unfair for him to be put in that position, honestly. And to be honest, he got picked on.
He did.
The Patriots had tons of success going after Sherman. So my thing is, it was, you said flashes. There were. Ultimately, on paper, it was a pretty rough performance. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't judge him on that because he never should have been out there, ever. And he was only out there because of need and because of injuries. And that, like, if people want to talk about how, here's my thing. The Bruce Arians and company are going to blow up. Well, we got Pierre Desir and we got Dee Delaney and we got these guys and we're confident in these guys, yada, 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 yada. You're so confident in them that you signed Richard Sherman and you had to play him all but one snap. 3 days later, the guy didn't even have an offseason. So you were so confident in those guys that you couldn't let them line up to start the game. Carlton Davis went down, and obviously, you were forced to put Delaney in the game. But that's where I read between the lines. That's where you have to sort of wonder. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if what you're selling me is what I'm buying. So, just. Big picture, luckily this time this team got Richard Sherman. He's going to get better week after week. Yes, It's probably still going to be rough for a couple more weeks, but they needed him, and that's the big thing.
And I'm real optimistic that Jamel Dean would be back this week against the Miami Dolphins. He practiced all week last week, and then it didn't seem like he was ready to go. And I've said on an episode earlier this week here that it's a great thing that he wasn't out there with the conditions and dealing with a knee injury. That's the last thing you want is for Jamel Dean to be out there. So there are some issues, obviously, but again, coming up on a pretty easy, or I don't want to say easy. Nothing's easy in the NFL, but a softer stretch here. Thank you. And some of these guys with the injuries can start to work their way back. I don't think we see Gronk this week. Seems more likely that he would play against the Eagles. Maybe not even that one. I think we're going to see Jason Pierre-Paul sooner rather than later. Hopefully Antoine Winfield Jr. clears the protocol, but I don't know if there's going to be enough time given that it was Sunday night. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Just like I've been keeping an eye on my mailbox, waiting for my limited time cookie dough chunk Built bars to arrive.
Yeah, you are.
Because I got to pack those for myself and my son for hockey days and tournaments and all that. But if you don't know about Built Bar, look, you're missing out. Plain and simple. There's coconut, almond, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, peanut butter brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel. There's something for everyone. If you don't know what your favorite flavor is, go ahead and order a mix box. You're going to get 2 of each of those bars. You're going to be able to figure out what your favorite flavor is. Not only are they the best tasting protein bars, but they are good for you. Each of those bars have 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 and you're going to get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Also, I have an issue with the NFL officials from Sunday night because I had placed a small prop bet on Antonio Brown to be the one to receive the record-breaking pass.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucs were a yard short. They were a yard short. And I said, watch. Antonio Brown is about to get a quick little bubble screen, and I'm going to win money. And then they come back from commercial break, and they're like, no, they changed the spot. They moved it forward. So Mike Evans was the one that caught the record-breaking pass, and I didn't win any money, but I'm back in the game this week with our friends over at Bet Online. As always, Bet Online is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, Bet Online continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website, use your mobile device to sign up today and get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit with promo code Locked On. All one word, LOCKEDON. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, or coming up soon, next week, hockey, NHL.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait. Take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Bet Online, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Bet Online, where the game starts. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. Evan, it is time to turn the page. It is time for Chapter 5 in this NFL season. And that chapter is entitled Miami Dolphins, the Smoking of Jacoby Brisset. And so we are going to do what we always do on Wednesdays. We're going to get your predicted player of the game. We're going to get your bold prediction. We're going to get your score prediction. And like we said at the top of the show, man, outside of that Rams game, you have been on fire on like all of these. So let's dive into the.
At least I picked the Rams to win that game, so at least I had like that too. So
yeah, you did. So let's dive into the Evan Closky crystal ball, and let's find out who the predictive player of the game is for this week.
Yeah, player of the game this week, I am going to actually go to the defensive side because I think it's going to be a weird offensive game. Would love to go Brady, but we eliminated that a long time ago. I'm going to go Vita Vea. This is a guy who I know every Buck fan who understands the intricacies of this game knows how important this dude is. He is, I think, was it David? I'm pretty sure David tweeted it out that if he's like the John Stockton of helping his teammates get like sacks and all that stuff. I mean, go watch the second Joe Tryon sack and just laser in on Vita Vea if you want to understand what David means there. But I actually think that Vea is going to be on the board a couple of times in this game. I think he'll finally get his. So, and that's on top of all the other things that he does. So I have a feeling we're going to walk away from that game being like, damn, Vita Vea is one hell of a player. So yeah, I'm kind of uncertain. I think offensively speaking, it's going to be one of those, like everybody's going to kind of get theirs, but nobody's going to shine. Usually one player is left out. I think everyone gets a little sprinkle of action in this game, but nobody, enjoys the cherry on top. It's going to be like 5 receptions, 60 yards. Who knows who gets a touchdown, but to me, that doesn't make you the player of the game. So Vita Vea, I'll go 2 sacks, maybe a tackle for a loss in there as well, plus some other stuff in there that kind of sticks out to me. That's like, whoa, what a game from Vea. So he's my pick.
I love that. And if you guys haven't listened or watched yesterday's episode, David does a nice dive into Vita Vea basically being the most impactful player on the field while not showing up on the stat sheet at all. It's incredible. My question for you before we get your bold prediction, are either one of the sacks by Vea going to be caused by him just ramming an offensive lineman into Jacoby Brisset?
Maybe not like directly, but it's going to be, one of them is going to be a truck stick. Okay. One of them is going to be here. Vea is going to get it because, Brisset's going to probably move like up into the pocket. There's going to be pressure on the outside. He's going to move up into the pocket, and that's where Vea is going to kind of just be waiting for him. So, I think with Bowles and how I'm starting to notice some adjustments, I think we're kind of right. They did it one game. Usually it takes 2 or 3 games before other coaches start catching on. So I feel like we're going to get another heaping pile of sacks, not something egregious, but, I think you're going to see, 3 or 4 again from this team.
All right. Just at some point, I want to see Vita Vea pick up an offensive player and just hurl him at the quarterback for a sack. It'll happen. It will happen, but guess not this week. All right. What is your bold prediction? Let's see how crazy we can get on this one.
4 turnovers.
I love it.
That's where I'm leaning towards. I think that it's going to be one of those scenarios, right? We're all talking about the secondary. Oh, the secondary is so bad. What are they going to do? This team's going to get crushed, yada, yada, yada. And all of a sudden we're going to look up at the scoreboard and be like, yeah, the defense kind of had a pretty big day today. So I'm fading myself and everything that I'm going to do on the TV side for the entire week. I'm fading the public. I just fade every conventional thought and 4 turnovers.
All right. Now, what is your final score prediction?
Final score, Buccaneers 28, Dolphins 17.
All right.
Yeah. So because of the 4 turnovers, I that's why I have the Dolphins. Again, I'm going with a 17 from an opponent and have them below 20. Obviously, if those turnovers don't happen, the Dolphins aren't going to be able to score. It's not a prolific offense. I think Bowles will be able to find ways to have success defensively speaking. As for the Bucs offense, they're not going to hit 30 again. But they'll find their success, mostly because Miami's got a good defense and they're not the passing defense that the Patriots are. And honestly, the Dolphins passing defense, when looking at their numbers, I was, before doing this, I was surprised. And that because, they got 2 outstanding cornerbacks there. So you would think that takes away 2 big options for a lot of teams, which would be debilitating. But teams have been having some success. So, teams have also been having success with the tight end against them. We'll see what happens on Sunday. But either which way, 28-17 Bucs.
All right. Evan, let everybody know what you guys have on tap over there at 10 Tampa Bay. And, of course, you got to talk about the Blitz.
That's right. So the Blitz, every Sunday, 11:30, 10 Tampa Bay leads into NFL Today. Remember, the Bucs Miami game is on CBS. So it's a one-stop shop. Just put the TV on to 10 Tampa Bay at 11:30. Get ready for the Bucs game because we'll have everything covered for you. Entering that matchup, you get NFL Today on CBS. That'll take you noon to 1. Then bam, you got the game going. So please tune into that. Simeon's been great. We had some fun last week. I put on a sweatshirt, doing my best Bill Belichick impression, which I pulled out of my hat randomly last week in the middle. Didn't know I had that in me, but essentially it's just waking up at 4 a.m. and just figuring out like how you can pull that off. That's the best Bill Belichick. But then also, look, we got the Rays, the Lightning, as you mentioned, start next Tuesday. We are in peak busy season here in Tampa Bay. So please head to 10tampabay.com. We have it all covered. It's long hours for your boy over here, but this is what it's all about. We sleep post Super Bowl into NHL playoffs. That's when we sleep. Okay. I'll go into my hole, I'll hibernate, and I'll be ready to go by the time the Bolts are ready to make it a 3-peat. So again, you see my handle there at the bottom at Closky, WTSP. You can find me on Instagram at Closky and on Facebook as well.
All right. And once again, we thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. Now available on YouTube. Check us out there. Make sure you subscribe. You can, suffer through my ugly mug, but you can check out, Evan and his smile. And, it's a fun time over there at YouTube. And it's not just the episodes. We're going to have more content than just the daily episodes over there at YouTube. So you got to make sure that you subscribe. But now you need to make sure that your second listen of the day is Peacock and Williamson. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available on all platforms. Check out everything I'm doing over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation. Send us your voicemails. Send us your emails. The phone number is 813-444-5841. The email address is lockedonbuckspodcast@gmail.com. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, be good to each other. And we thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.